Tomorrow, the Department of Justice will announce its findings into a year-and-a-half-long investigation into the Albuquerque Police Department. As News 13's Dean Staley shows us, there's been a lot that led up to this point.
People have been clamoring for the Department of Justice to step in and investigate APD for 3 years. So how did the Albuquerque Police Department find itself here? The most common answer is the wave of shootings, but it runs deeper than that.
Congratulations, Mayor.
When Mayor Richard Berry took office in December of 2009, he had no idea what was about to hit his administration. As the calendar turned to 2010, it ushered in a barrage of police shootings. One of the first was also one of the most controversial and costly for APD. January 13th, Iraq war vet Kenneth Ellis killed in front of a 7-Eleven in the Heights as he held a gun to his own head. The officer who pulled the trigger, Brett Lampiris Tremba, reportedly blurted out, "Was that me?" after firing the fatal shot. A jury awarded Ellis's family $10 million in the case. Detective Lampiris Tremba became a symbol for what's wrong with APD. Initially rejected by APD for lying during his interview, the department hired him the second time around. Over the next year and a half, 17 shootings. Shortly after that, City Council voted to ask the DOJ to take a look at APD. The mayor vetoed the measure.
We're simply asking people, let us do our job. We're being very proactive. We've got all these new steps in place. Let's take a look over time and let's see if these are making a difference.
The tally now stands at 33 APD shootings since 2010, 23 of them deadly, far outpacing the number of police shootings in other cities. Some of the men were shot in the back, some unarmed. Some of the shooting officers didn't turn on their lapel cameras. As the shootings mounted, so did the cries of a cover-up and allegations that bad cops were going unpunished. Other problems mounted too. Cops caught on tape beating suspects, committing crimes in uniform, on duty. Offensive jokes on social media from an officer describing his job as human waste disposal, who later shot a man in the back. When the wife of then Public Safety Director Darren White got into a crash, admitted she was on prescription drugs but wasn't tested for DWI, distrust of the department came to a boil again. The mayor was being called on the carpet, and calls were echoing for him to oust Chief Ray Schultz. Mayor Berry stood firm.
Great confidence in our officers out there, and I've got a lot of confidence in Chief Schultz as well.
Through it all, the mayor and Chief Schultz, who just retired in September, defended the department, calling it one of the best in the country. No officers were ever charged or fired for a shooting. As APD and the city have continued to pay out for lawsuits and settlements, $24 million and counting since 2010, no one in charge has ever admitted a shooting was bad. But as the outrage built, the mayor boasted about reforms he'd enacted, starting in late 2011 after the city commissioned a study from a law enforcement think tank. It came back with a laundry list of fixes, chief among them hiring better officers, less confrontational officers with an eye for solving problems instead of escalating them.
What we will be doing is hiring even better, more qualified folks.
For many, including Steve Tate, the former head of the APD Academy, that's been the crux of the problem. Tate and others point to the previous decade when then Mayor Marty Chavez and Schultz pushed to hire hundreds of officers to swell the ranks to 1,100. Some of the officers brought in during that surge have been at the center of the controversy. Meet Sean Wallace, a transfer from state police who had already cost the state $500,000 for shooting and killing an unarmed drug suspect. He shot 2 more unarmed people since joining APD, including Alan Gomez during a SWAT standoff. The young man was standing on his porch when Wallace took him out. That cost the city another $900,000. Wallace was hired the same time as Keith Sandy, both fresh off their scandals for collecting pay for working for a security firm while on the clock for state police.
Get on the ground! Don't make noise! Get up!
Sandy is, of course, the APD cop who fired first at homeless camper James Boyd last month and is now the subject of an FBI investigation. It's not just the shooters. There are common themes among the people who are being shot. Most were in their 20s or 30s, and like Boyd, many had serious mental health issues. On the other side, city and police leaders have said the unpredictable threat that the mentally ill can pose has put officers in positions where they had no choice but to shoot. A decade ago, a mentally ill man took Officer Carol Oleksak's gun away from her in Nob Hill and shot her in the head, leaving her with permanent damage. Officers fatally shot the man. A year later, in 2005, two officers, Richard Smith and Michael King, went to the home of John Hyde near UNM to check on that mentally ill man. Hyde ambushed and gunned down the officers, who were close friends of then-Chief Schultz. And recently, we saw Christopher Chase open fire on a police officer before stealing his car and then taking shots at more cops during a crosstown chase. With those memories, it's easy to see why Albuquerque police officers would be on edge over the past decade. What we do know, APD is about to see an overhaul whether the new chief, his brass, and the rank and file like it or not. We've already started to see a change in the attitude at the top, with the mayor finally conceding that the city needs the feds' help to fix the Albuquerque Police Department after years of denying there was a problem.
We're going to be glad to get the results. It's a situation where I think as a city, particularly in light of the James Boyd officer-involved shooting incident, where we want to hear what the DOJ has to say.
And you can count on KRQE News 13 to bring you the DOJ report live as the findings are announced. We'll carry that tomorrow morning during the press conference at 10 a.m. right here on KRQE News 13 and live online at krqe.com.